of Montara Water and Sanitary District Board of Directors. It's April 1st, no fooling, the year 2021. It's 7:33 p.m. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
How about I take that on?
Okay, sounds good.
Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Lohman,
Yes, here.
Director Decker,
Yes, here.
Director Harvey,
Here.
and Director Slater Carter.
Finally, present.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. To our audience on the interwebs, glad you tuned in. Tonight, we've got one item on the new business. We've got a pretty full consent agenda, some reports, and then we'll have a closed session at the end. President's statement, just a gorgeous day. This is why we live here, I think. And couldn't be happier with a day like today, reminding us of just how amazing it is. Did have an article in local paper this week. This is a very dry year. I think our community has long been very careful in water use. This is one of those years where care will be appreciated. We're in pretty good shape, but care in dry years is always good. Do we have any oral comments for items not on the agenda?
I do.
Catherine?
I got an email from one of the board members of the fire district and wondering if Montara could put out a wildfire, and saying that this board member didn't think Montara had sufficient capability. And I was a bit stunned because that's the fire department's job to take care of wildfires. Our district, according to everything I've researched, is to take care of in the urban area. And outside the urban area is where it's up to the fire district to do their planning. So I hope they pay attention to this article in the review, because they did an excellent job when they took care of the fire that was on the Havas Miller Ranch several years ago. And certainly nobody has criticized Coastside County Water District since Keith Mangold gave his excellent presentation at the Mid-Coast Community Council about the fire problems with eucalyptus trees. So I'm hoping that people are paying attention to the reality of what's going on rather than trying to pick blame to stop projects. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? No?
Greg,
Okay.
maybe.
Greg has his
Greg
hand
on
up.
the fire danger.
I hope we're still in public comment. I'm sorry I'm late.
Yeah, yes, we are. Greg, do you have someone for something not on the agenda?
Yeah, two things.
Okay.
One is some of you are aware I wrote an article in Coastside Buzz about the Half Moon Bay lawsuit. I also sent a copy to Clay, struck down, I sent it to him a week ago Tuesday. He said he couldn't make it last week, but he considered it for this week. I haven't seen it. And I find it very surprising that he wouldn't publish what I'll call the Mid-Coast view of the lawsuit. So that I'm just going to leave that out there. If any of you are aware of what's going on, why it hasn't been published, or see it published, let me know. I'm going to go through some other channels to see if we can't exert some pressure to get it published in a Half Moon Bay venue. Okay. The other thing that's more important is the local hazard mitigation plan, which I believe you all know Montara Water and Sanitary District is now in, as well as the other local districts. There's a survey. I want anybody listening to this broadcast who's a resident to know that you should be taking a survey raising your concerns and issues. Link to that survey is not yet on the MCC website because I don't control that, but it is in the article I wrote today about wildfire risk. So please read my article and look for the link. We are at the MCC going to be producing a list of hazards, but this is not the MCC report. I merely wanted to suggest that the three agencies work with the MCC in coming up with a plan we can support mutually. The MCC will be taking a position, right, with Ann Ludwig and the LHMP people. We may or may not be on the steering committee. We'll see what Don Horsley thinks. That's apparently an okay idea, but it hasn't happened yet. And I encourage MWSD because I think the pot of money that maybe 2 years out there could be available for things which mitigate climate risks, including recycled water, etc. So I hope that you all are involved in setting some agenda topics regarding risk mitigation and LHMP related projects. And I will be glad to exchange news and views with you to help support your efforts and coordinate them with the other Mid-Coast agencies going forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Anyone else with public comment? Looking carefully this time. Seeing none, on the consent agenda, we have minutes for the meetings of March 4th, 18th, and the special meetings of March 3rd and March 11th. Financial statements for February, warrants for April 1st, the SAM flow report for February, the monthly review of the current investment portfolio, connection permit applications received, monthly water production report, the rain report, the monthly solar energy report, and the monthly public agency retirement service report for January 2021. Does anyone wish to pull anything for discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded by Catherine and Rick. Could we have a roll call, please?
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Lohman?
Yes.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Slater Carter?
Yes.
All right, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. No old business. In new business, we have one item, review and possible action concerning draft water and sewer budget.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So here at Montara Water and Sanitary District, we bring every year the draft budget in a very preliminary form to this board for two purposes. We want the board to be able to let us know if there is anything that they're particularly interested in seeing this coming fiscal year, starting July 1, that needs to be considered. That can also be, that input can be repeated because we'll bring the budget up at least one more time, usually actually at least two more times, quite frankly. So there is further opportunity to comment from the board. The other purpose is we really want everybody to alert that we're starting this process. And we're asking essentially for the referral to the Finance Committee so that we can then schedule at one point a Finance Committee meeting and walk this through with the two committee members so that the budget is in the best form it can be before we bring it next time to the board. So at this time, everything is based on the February financial information. So we'll get to input the March financial data very soon in the draft. We still have to work on our sewer service charge assessments numbers, for example. We're just about getting better numbers from the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side. That's the biggest driver on the sewer side. So everything is now coming together. And so we're asking for that referral. We have here with us, of course, Peter, who has been working on the spreadsheet, and we've been going through them together. And I'm going to hand over the word to Peter just to make sure that, that I don't forget anything that is important to mention. Peter.
Thanks, Clemens. No, you more or less captured everything. I mean, that's it. We are tracking with our normal progression. Clemens and I have had discussions. We have factored in a number of items which are kind of the continuous expenditures that are regular on a month-to-month basis. We do have some major missing pieces, as Clemens said. The big ones being payroll. We are waiting for the COLA number to come out. That usually is released in the next couple of weeks, and then so we'll be able to solidify that figure. And then we're waiting from our engineers to provide us our CIP update. And then, as Clemens said, Sam, we are working with Sam to get a good grasp on what that figure is going to look like. And then it's really just kind of wrangling in our revenue side, and our major pieces there being sewer service charges and water rates. So coming up with what we expect those to be. So those are the major pieces. And then there's also some more finer points to bring up with the committee in terms of cash management, which Clemens and I have discussed that we'll be bringing to the whole entire to the committee and getting their input as well. So, but no, Clemens pretty much captured it all.
I have one question. We talk about revenues. What is happening with the water reliability charge that we're supposed to be paid to us by the county? I know we have only received half of the 1 million in water reliability charge.
Yes, Clemens, you want me to handle that one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yes, we as with our sewer service charges, we made our first major collection in December, and we've allocated that to the water fund. The funds are in our operations account, and that was going to be one of the points that we discussed together as far as, do we want to move that money into its own separate bank account? That's a possibility, because as it stands now, it's in with our operating funds. But in terms of full transparency for our community, just because we know that is earmarked for capital improvement, that's going to be part of the discussion. But in terms of your question, yes, we've had one collection. The next one will come in. It's typically April. So that should be by shortly, and that should fill up the full $1 million. And really, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think we can give it back to the board. We already gave it back to the board. So if there are more comments, please let us know.
Are you looking for opinions now or later?
If there is anything that is important to consider throughout this process that you can think of right now, we're happy to take that input now. There will be at least one clear opportunity before we bring the budget back in final form to do that again.
Okay. I will say then that I support a separate fund. I realize it's a little bit more work, but for the improvement fund. But I think if we start out right away, tracking and keeping everything in its own categories, I think it will save a lot of backtracking if somebody brings up a problem or a perceived problem later.
There are two mistakes in the documentation that was sent to us with this meeting. One of the mistakes was the budget numbers for 2020 and 21 in the water presentation. It had the wrong number in it. And the other thing is the totals of the capital improvement projects are not correct, at least one of them. But we can talk about those details when we have a finance committee meeting.
Thank you. I want to see where those are at, but I appreciate you bringing those to my attention. Nobody likes mistakes.
policy standpoint, I like the idea of separate fund or account or something to keep track of that money separately so that we can, say this is an allocated reserve that we draw from specifically for this class of stuff. So it doesn't look like one of those slush funds that the Hoover Commission wrote about 20 years ago. We've always been very judicious about that, but that's what informs my thinking.
Okay.
Any further comments or questions? If not, as you ponder the details, be sure and let Clemens and Peter know, or the committee know, so that we can give them good support as they help drive this forward. Thank you for getting started on it. It's April 1st. It's good to see numbers already coming together.
Before we close this, I have one more question, and that is, when do you expect to see the numbers from Sam as to be able to incorporate them in our budget?
I think, Peter, you're more familiar with the timeline. I know there is something to review already. We actually had a managers meeting and took a first look at some of these numbers of the general budget. And I believe that this is going up at one of the next SAM board meetings in draft form. Was that the plan, Peter?
Yes and no. We expect to go to the Finance Committee on April 15th of this month. And then...
So, and we in our process are really 1 month early. We usually bring this item rather in the first meeting in May to this board. So we got an early start. So we got to give the other agencies a little bit time to work their way through the budgets.
On the SAM side, though, yes, we have been working on this for the past couple of months amongst the finance team, and we've had a couple of meetings with the member agencies. And now, like I said, we've gone through all pieces, and we are, like I said, expecting to go to the Finance Committee the middle of this month, and then from there take it to the full board at the next possible meeting, depending on how the 15th comes out. Go to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, if we're ready to move on, just checking any public comment on this item. Okay, let's move on to reports. Sewer Authority, McCoside.
I'll start, Catherine. You can jump in. There were 3 items. One's we got approval to launch a plant capacity and treatment process contract with a lot of the issues we've been having with these things that we think are coming from the breweries and stuff like that, but we haven't totally isolated any of that yet. They are launching a contract and they're going out for bids now to have kind of a full review of our capacity and processes with some outside folks taking a look. We extended the contract for our legal guy by an extra $25,000 because of all the extra legal stuff that's been hitting Sam. And they started their preliminary financial report. They went through, so again, Sam is starting the budget financial outlook process also. So that was pretty much it.
Yep, things are wrapping up finally on the project at Sam, and they did have Brown and Caldwell come over to look at the new project with the oh crap, the tanks, the bubbler tanks, I keep forgetting the name of it, but
Aeration
anyway.
basin.
Thank you, aerations. And so there's going to be Sam's going to be watching closely because Brown and Caldwell is a big company and they may be putting forward some typical big company ideas like, gee, if you just did it this way, we could cover our bottom line better. But, oh, wait, I didn't say that. If you just, so we need to be, Sam is going to be very aware of keeping it within budget.
Okay, Midcoast Community Council. Greg, did you want to chime in?
Yes, I do. Some of you may be aware that there is a Midcoast Recreational Development Fund. I believe Rick and Catherine were involved in the 2002 needs study, which established the need for some more recreational assets over here. Sid Young brought to my attention that this fund existed. She wants to use the money for a community center. She wanted to know how much money was there, was it misspent, etc. February 28th, I wrote the county controller, director of parks, Nick Calderon, copied a few other people, can't remember, said, I'd like to see the records of the fund. Weeks went by, got a reply, wait until March 24th. March 24th came, went, finally I got a partial reply listing every single journal entry for the last 18 years, showing that interest accumulated, being credited, and checks without identifying the payee, checks being withdrawn, and what the balance of the fund was. And then I got a letter from a bunch of people, most of whom I did not know. And it has in it a bunch of legalese about why they can or cannot disclose certain Freedom of Information Act things. And basically, I'm asking, where's the fund? How much is in it? And what's it been spent on? Because I think MWSD might be interested in knowing that these funds could be used for recreational assets of interest to our community. All right, so that's why I'm bringing it up here. The parties to the reply to me included Tim Fox and another deputy county counsel, and the letter was signed by the county council. So I don't know what's going on and why we just don't have a simple set of financial statements showing the balance of the fund. But I must have stepped on something. I became aware that there are allegations of embezzlement against a former parks commissioner. Those were targeting something called the Sheriff's Athletic League Fund. I don't know that it has anything to do with this. It may be totally unrelated. But I just wanted to let you know that I am pursuing, trying to find out where that money is. Do we have everything in it that we should have in it? And then I will certainly let MWSD know, because it's possible in connection with local hazard mitigation plan funds, we might have funds available to do something of a recreational nature with MWSD. Just thought you ought to know.
Scott,
Yeah, Rick.
a couple more Midcoast Council things. You have to watch funds that are allocated to the coast because they often simply disappear. Many years ago, due to PG&E or somebody, I can't remember, we were granted a significant amount of money to lay like a half a mile of putting all the wires that are up in the air and undergrounding the wires. And we had chosen the entry to the mid-coast in El Granada, Miramar, where you get the beautiful ocean view as you come from Half Moon Bay. After a while, those funds were used by Redwood City to underground stuff in Redwood City, and we never saw a penny. So things just disappear. And I also got a call today, and I haven't been able to look at it because it was right before the meeting. Apparently, the Caltrans analysis, I believe he was saying all the lights and everything they're talking about for Moss Beach, Montara. There's been a revision or something. I haven't been able to read the letter, but I think they're looking for input. If folks up here have comments about the urbanization of Moss Beach and Montara with thousands of lights and everything, I would recommend tracking down that study, and maybe Greg can give us some more information on it because he's got his hand. but apparently they're
Yeah.
looking for some input, so.
What you're talking about is a series of Caltrans signs and vehicle monitoring stations that they want to install. Way back in the first draft, it was something like a dozen. And there were a lot of comments made by the MCC and other citizens. They agreed to rethink it and cut back. And my review of the last draft, although I'm not the official guy on the subcommittee of the MCC who's looking into this, but my view was they reduced it down to one sign in the mid-coast area. Although the monitoring stations to track traffic are still going to be planned. And they promise it'll be off most of the time, and it will only be used to alert motorists in the event of disaster problems. It won't be for the normal, you know, X minutes to Half Moon Bay, Y minutes to Pacifica. So that seems to have met an objective established by Michelle Weil and some other people on the MCC to reduce the intrusion, but there's still going to be one sign. And it is going to be 12 feet wide, and I don't remember how many high, but it's going to be big, bigger than some people want. My question about the project is what's wrong with Waze and Google Maps, and why do we need Caltrans to do something when we have other cell phone services that you would think could track the traffic? But apparently there's money to be spent, and so they're going to configure a project to spend it because that's how they stay employed.
Okay, well, that was quite a topic. CSDA report, Rick.
Nothing yet because meetings haven't occurred yet.
Matco.
Same thing. It's every other month, so.
Okay, do we have an attorney's report, Christine?
No report.
Do we have any director's reports? A general manager's report.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we do have a newsletter for April and May. It didn't make it into the packet tonight, but it is already up on the website, and we'll send out a final version to the directors tomorrow. But anyone interested, go to our website and you can find it right there.
Okay, terrific. Future agendas, we've got the CSDA transparency certificate and the conflict of interest code update. Any other items we wanted to capture for that? Okay, we are going to recess for 5 minutes and then come back for closed session. We thank the public for attending. We're going to have 2 items, one on existing litigation and one on anticipated litigation. And we will, if we take any action, we will report out afterwards. So thank you everyone for coming.
Thanks, everybody.